Hi there and welcome back to another video. Today I am talking about my best and worst reads from 2023. To get rolling on a positive note, let's start with the books I liked the most from last year. First up is The Collected Regrets of Clover by Mickey Brommer. In this one, we follow Clover, our main character, as she works her job as someone who stays with people during their last moments of life. Her job is to provide them with company as they pass away, and a lot of the time they end up sharing with her some of their biggest regrets. Clover keeps a notebook full of these regrets, and I thought this book did a great job of exploring the human condition, what we may regret throughout our life, and how we can go about pursuing our dreams while we still have the time to. This one is obviously a little bit on the darker side with content warnings for things like death and illness, but it is definitely worth digging into. The next book that I absolutely loved in 2023 was Happy Place by Emily Henry. The simple fact at this point is that Emily Henry does not miss for me, and she's somehow able to combine lighthearted romance with more complex ideas and genuine character development. Happy Place is about a separated couple who comes back together to go on a trip to celebrate the union of two of their friends. Rather than ruin the engagement and the excitement by telling them that they're separated, their friends that they're separated, they decide to keep it a secret so that they don't get in the way of their friends' happiness. But all this pretending, staying in the same room together, and revisiting locations where they've been the happiest make them start to consider their choices when it comes to their breakup. This book is great at exploring the complexities of friendship and how the past can affect the present and the opposite way around. Another book that I absolutely loved in 2023 was The Breakaway by Jennifer Weiner. If you are looking for a feminist, pro-choice story with a plus-size main character, look no further than The Breakaway. There was just so much that I loved about this book, from the bike ride that literally pushes the characters forward, to the ensemble of characters and how each of them is so unique and yet still so nuanced. There is also plenty of romance between our main character and her love interest, and if you want to know more about The Breakaway, I actually did a full review on that one, so you can click on that here. Up next is one of my absolute favorites from 2023, and I just love everything about this book. It is With Love from Cold World by Alicia Thompson. I don't know what it is exactly about this book that just brought me under its spell, but from the first moment that you look at the cover, which in my opinion is just beautiful and eye-catching, to when you start reading about the tense relationship the characters have at the very beginning of the book, I think that you'll probably just be drawn in if you're anything like me. I adored the will they, won't they tension, and also it's always great that a book has bi representation. I'm usually very reserved with my 5-star ratings, but With Love from Cold World got one from me. Up next for some of my best reads of 2023 is The Good Part by Sophie Cousins. I think time travel was a bit of a theme for me this year in a lot of my reads, and The Good Part hits the nail on the head when it comes to that theme. In this one, our main character is in her 20s and experiencing a lot of the woes that come with that period in your life, including not having an established career, sleeping in a crappy apartment with a leaky roof, and generally navigating some tough relationships with her friends when they want to move to different parts of their life before she does. She makes a wish on a machine and just wishes that she could skip to the good part, and next thing she knows, she's waking up next to a 40-year-old man that she's never met before. And throughout the rest of the book, she explores how growing up is definitely part of the journey, and that by skipping to the good part, you may actually miss most of the interesting stuff in between. And following up The Good Part is Yours for the Taking by Gabrielle Korn. Yours for the Taking was a page-turner from the very start. I found the concept of this entire story to be very interesting, as it takes place in the future when global warming has rendered the world basically uninhabitable. Just as climate change is really setting in, a bunch of rich people in the world and some governments start putting together these giant domes in which people should be able to live and withstand some of the torrential storms and extreme temperature changes that are happening in the world until things are able to go back to normal and they can exit the domes again. An eccentric billionaire in the United States comes up with the idea to fund one of these domes, but she asks for control over the project, and in this execution only allows women and non-binary people to be a part of the society without anybody knowing. The citizens of the dome don't realize this is happening until they're all sitting in the arena together and realize that there is a certain gender missing among them. The billionaire watches this experimental society unfold from her safe spot up in space, and we watch as the relationships inside this society take place, and some lines are definitely overstepped. If you're interested at all in gender or feminist type of media, I would definitely recommend reading this one, as it provokes a lot of thoughts. It examines ideas of consent, the greater good and how environmentalism affects gender. And the final one of my best books of 2023 is The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. I am a huge fan of a lot of Rachel Hawkins' work, and this year she came out with The Heiress, which was just as good. But these are the books I read in 2023, so we're going to talk about The Villa. The Villa was one of the very first books that I read this year, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it just set a good tone for the rest of the reading. It's a thriller that takes place in an Italian house in the countryside, and our two main characters are old friends who are rediscovering their love of writing and forging new paths for the future. Tensions rise, secrets come out, and eventually we're left to question who the real good guy in the story is. If you're interested in learning more about The Villa, you can check out my full review here. Okay, so now that we've gotten through some of the best books that I read in 2023, I have to go ahead and let you know what some of the not so great books that I got through were. First up on this list is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I really wanted to like this book, as I know there are so many people who cite this as one of their favorites or the book that got them back into reading. But this book just wasn't for me. It felt a little bit iffy that the main love interest is just outwardly cruel to our main character, and even in some instances towing the line of sexual harassment. I tried to push past this thinking that the book would correct it in some way, but it seems that that is just kind of the love interest's personality. Unfortunately, I did not finish this one, and so I ended up giving it a 1-star rating, and the part where I finally put the book down is about halfway through. Our two characters are living in kind of like little huts next to each other out in a secluded area, and our main character is living there with her 11-year-old. Our main character goes out in the morning to see her love interest standing in his yard, peeing outside and exposing himself. This is gross enough with the idea that she as a person may just not want to walk out and see something like that, and he's well aware that they are living there, but it becomes even grosser to me when we consider the fact that there is an 11-year-old girl living in that place with her, and so him exposing himself could have potentially scarred this little girl. The fact that he doesn't seem to think about this or doesn't care if it was something he considered means that it's just not a book that I could go on reading. Next up, for one of the books I just did not like last year in 2023 is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hugo. I really wanted to like this one again, as it is highly rated, and I really did enjoy the concept. However, I just felt like the execution was a bit off here. In this one, our narrator wakes up in a setting he doesn't remember and tries to solve a murder that takes place on the grounds. It just was full of a lot of awkward writing and even some fat phobia sprinkled in, and I just couldn't get myself to finish it, and so this one also got a 1-star rating from me. Another one of my least favorite reads from 2023 was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennifer McCurdy. I know a lot of people really love this memoir, and I can agree that a lot of the stuff she goes over is really deep, personal, and somewhat interesting given her life experiences. However, I just felt that the writing and the cadence and the pace and the organizational structure of this book was just not ready to support the ideas being explored. I think the marketing team for this memoir did an outstanding job in hyping up the excitement and getting people to buy copies, and especially with everything the author went through, I think that she deserves that success. However, it felt really unresolved to me, it lacked reflection, and I just really wanted the writing quality itself to be a little bit better. And the final book that I read in 2023 that was just not one of my favorites was Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mehrer. This book had a ton of hype before and when it came out, and I loved the concept of it. I love a good enemies to lover book, because who doesn't? But this one just missed the mark. The characters felt really two-dimensional and kind of like cardboard cutouts just moving around a set. I just found it really difficult to suspend my disbelief. I think one of the biggest issues in this book for me was the type of power imbalance, or maybe how the power system is not fully described or set up. For example, we are made to believe that the villain in this story is so powerful and just so over the top, everyone's afraid of him, but there are multiple instances throughout the book where he's easily toppled by other people, which just makes it hard to believe that he's this ultra powerful villain. So those are the best and worst books that I read in 2023. Leave a comment below if you agree or disagree with any of my assessments on these books, and as always, you can find links to them down in the description below. Thanks for watching.